Hello, everybody. My name is Shireen, and I am an IVC student and a member of the Psi Beta Introductory Psychology Peer Teacher Project, and I'll be presenting Lesson 4. So perhaps you have heard or read about the concerns some experts are having about the quality of sleep experienced by our nation's teenagers. So many high school students say that they do not obtain the recommended 8.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep each night. Prior to learning all of this, I myself thought it was only 7 hours, so maybe some of you guys might relate. So you can ask yourself, what factors influence quality and length of sleep anyway? So some students are working and their work schedules inflict with their sleep, or maybe the amount of schoolwork they have, or they might be involved in sports or social activities, or even like with their families. So sleep researchers are concerned about all of this. Here's a TED Talk that you guys will be watching. All right. So school start times are one factor that might influence teen sleep. So if high schools start at an early time, then the teenagers have to wake up earlier in order to get there in time. A lot of school districts are starting to take notice of this issue, and fortunately, psychological research can provide evidence to inform educational policy. There's current data on student sleep that has motivated districts to consider changing the start time. However, a lot of factors play a role in this, and it's not that easy to just change the school's starting time. Some factors that we must consider is, for example, if we want to do this, the time for for sports should kind of be moved from before, like at early on in school to after schools, but like before dark. And a lot of coaches are our biggest opponents for this because they're the ones whose time is being changed. Another factor that plays a role is that family schedules. Like parents might have to go to work early and they might not be able to drop off their children if it starts at a later time. Excuse me. And even if the families who do not like transport their children themselves and they use the busing system, most districts use only one bus system, which basically it is used for elementary, middle, and high school together. So if we change the high school time, it will be affecting the middle school and elementary as well. And that's not convenient. And I'm sure that there's other important considerations. We need evidence to support the decision to make a change in school start time, especially because this is not an easy decision. So let's look at this one study that was investigated in changing school start time. The study used what psychologists call a quasi-experimental design, which is similar to a true experimental design, but the difference is in a true experimental design, you kind of control all of the other variables so that you know that the independent variable is actually changing the dependent variable's outcome. Whereas in a quasi-experimental design, you can't always control all of the other variables, either because it's not ethical or it's not practical. We'll come back to this a little bit later on. So people have claimed that based on these data, that the change in sleep were caused purely by a later school day start time. Should we accept that kind of claim? So here in this table, the time 1 percentage is the outcomes that they got prior to the school changing the school time. And the time 2 percentage is the results they got after they changed the school's start time. So in an actual manipulation, the entire school day was shortened. It wasn't just moved back 25 minutes. So what that means is the school ended at the same time. It just started at a later time. So think about what conclusions can be made given this specific manipulation. Did you notice that there is no control group? So that's part of the quasi-experimental design. Random assignment of participants to a treatment or control condition is not possible in this situation. We can't just say, hey, you guys come earlier on and you guys don't because they share the same schedule. Everyone knew that the school start time had to be changed. Because of this, the researchers compared the outcome from before the school changed the start time, and they compared it to after the school changed their school start time. And this little comparison allowed us to compare data. Some other variables that could have co-occurred with the time change maybe was like students had a different bedtime, or maybe PE was cut out to make time for the change, or some other variables might have played a role. And also, students might have been told that for the time change, the reason behind it was to measure whether they were less sleepy or if they got more sleep. Do you guys think that that could have led to an expectancy or maybe even a placebo effect? I'm sorry. So what challenges do you see for generalizing all these findings from a particular study to all high school students? Because remember, this is only done from like one school. For example, think about the ways these teenagers at this high school, which is a boarding school, by the way, might differ from students of the same age at other schools and other differences between high schools in general. If we consider that this study was based upon a sample of one high school, to what extent could we generalize the findings from this study to the population of other high schools? Does this sample sufficiently represent a general population of all the adolescents? This sample is of a single boarding school at which students may have different sleep patterns. Students who live at home, they don't have to commute to school. So that's like one of my biggest factors, commuting to school. And this school, because it was a boarding school, they didn't have to commute. So that might have played a role. Um, and also boarding school students may also be more affluent and less racially diverse than the general population. So you might ask, what solutions are available to create a more representative sample? And you might think maybe doing the similar studies at different kinds of high schools would be a good start. We can compare maybe the results of this study to a similar study being replicated, for example, at a district that is a low-income district. Let's review the study and answer to the questions you guys were asked a while ago. So in figure 4.1, it displays the frequency of scores on one variable, which is the duration of sleep students got on weeknights. And that is the dependent variable. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. Professor Jerry, I messed up. I'm so sorry. I think you're muted if you are saying anything. Do I just stop and